to Your Mac Life for Wednesday, January the 15th, the middle of January, year 2020, show number 1240. I'm your host, Shawn King, joined as always by my lovely wife,
Melissa.
We made... Oh, hang on. Okay. So this afternoon, today's show, we're going to be talking to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com in a recorded interview. Jim had a previous engagement this evening, so we recorded it this afternoon. And unfortunately, because we recorded it this afternoon, Jim's going to be sober. It's not a very good interview. He's drinking coffee. It's boring. You can actually hear it in his voice. You can hear how depressed he is to not have a beer in his hand when he's talking to me. Kidding.
No.
So we
I was
recorded
going to say he has a problem if that's the case.
We recorded this afternoon. We talked about the FBI against Apple again. The Cory Doctorow article, The Cult of Mac. We talked about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and a bunch of other stuff. And then later on the show, we're going to talk about editing on the iPhone. Melissa had a great little comment. We took a picture this morning, and she was going to post it. I said, are you going to edit it? And she was like, you got to edit your photos. And I'll show you the quick little steps. We'll go through this again, because now with iOS 13, it's a little bit different. We'll go through it again about how to edit your photos in iOS 13. We made magic this past week. Literal magic. So 2-3 weeks ago, I found a recipe for what they called millionaire shortcake. Millionaire shortbread. And it was shortbread cookies, a layer of caramel sauce, and then a layer of melted chocolate. I found a recipe to how to make caramel sauce. And I'm waiting. When I'm making the caramel sauce, Melissa's like, what are you doing? I was like, because she knows I'm a fanatic about following the recipe. And I measure everything out. If it says a quarter, I actually bought a whole bunch of measuring spoons, because if it says a quarter cup is going in there. And not a grain more is going into my recipe. So I'm measuring, brown sugar and butter and all kinds of stuff. And she said, what are you doing? I said, I'm making caramel sauce. She said, why you make it that way? I'm like, what other way is there to make it? She said, with condensed milk. Well, yeah, I am using condensed milk. She said, no, there's another way. I had no idea what she was talking about. I don't know if you looked it up or I looked it up. And we found a recipe online of how to make caramel sauce with condensed milk. And just condensed milk. Do you know about this?
That's a memory from me from my grandmother, because she made it all the time. So that was a memory for me.
You've never made it any other way.
Me?
Yeah.
No, my grandma, that's where she always, that's what I remember. I remember it boiling. I know you're going to go on with the story, but that's what I remember, and I didn't understand what you were doing.
Exactly, and I didn't understand what you were talking about. You were saying, we'll just boil a can of condensed milk. I'm like, that's stupid. That can't possibly
that's
work.
what my grandma did. She made the best caramel in the world.
And I'm thinking, well, you were a kid. You didn't understand what your grandma was doing. She was doing something else, because it couldn't have been as simple as boiling a can of condensed milk, because that just seemed ridiculous. And so we did it. You took a can of condensed milk, you put it in a pot, you fill the pot full of water over top of the condensed milk, you bring it to a boil, and then you let it simmer for 2.5 hours, making sure that you keep water over top of the can, because obviously if you don't, the can will explode. And I'm thinking, this isn't going to work. This is stupid. There's no way this could possibly work. So 2.5 hours later, there's no way to tell if it's actually done anything or not, because the can looks the exact same. 2.5 hours later, you pour out the hot water, you let the can cool. Cool can after half an hour. I pick the can up, I pop the top off, and there's this brown stuff in there. I dip a finger in. It's freaking caramel! I give it to Melissa. Melissa goes, yep, that's caramel. I'm like, how did this work?
It is so yummy. I ridiculously ate way too much.
It's bizarre. Oh, yeah, she was just eating by the spoonful out of the can.
Because my grandma wouldn't,
I have yet to find anything on YouTube or any kind of scientific explanation of...
No, the sugar caramelizes. I looked it up. It's just because the sugar caramelizes.
But there's no butter in it? There's no brown sugar?
No,
there's nothing.
It caramelizes in the reduced milk. Like, what does it say here?
So that being the case, why would you have to boil it? Why wouldn't you just put it in a pot and heat it up?
Says cannot boil something which has less water. Store-bought condensed milk has high sugar content, and hence when heated, the sugar caramelizes, giving the condensed milk a caramel color. They say it's not really pure caramel, but it tastes incredible. So who cares?
Oh no, it was and you're right. It's not.
It's something else.
Our friend Angry Drunk on Twitter said what we'd actually made was dulce de leche.
And it says, is condensed milk the same as dulce de leche? It's sweet, luscious. Where the key difference with these two is that dulce de leche is made from condensed milk, or milk and sugar, and caramel is made from sugar and water.
And brown sugar, because that's why I added in the caramel. But it was amazing. It was very cool.
Oh, it's easy.
And I really want to do a side-by-side taste test. I want to make the brown sugar, butter, evaporated milk one, and then this one, and see how they taste. Because they do taste differently, but I can't put my finger on how. I think the other one, the brown sugar one, was really sweet, and the condensed milk one was very smooth.
It's just got a lovely subtle, and I love the texture of the condensed milk one.
It wasn't as hard, although we didn't put it didn't last long enough to put it in the freezer. This one over here comes in the bedroom.
Yummy.
Comes in the bedroom.
I can just eat it by the spoonful.
And I'm like, what do you got in your mouth? Mm-hmm. She can't even open her mouth because you got so much caramel in it. I'd like to try them side by side, but we're going to make it with the recipe. We're having a dinner party. Having a dinner party on Saturday. I'm going to make caramel cheesecake, and we're going to use the dulce de leche stuff or condensed milk. But it was just wild. That it worked. I just
Shawn was pretty.
I was really blown away.
So I looked and I went, there it is, just like my grandma used to do. And then Monty said that his grandma did that too. Right. So it was a memory. Because I always remember the sound of it boiling, and then my grandma would make a very light little sponge, and she'd just pour it all over the sponge cake, and then she'd line it with fresh cream, and so yummy.
That'd be yummy. Saw this article. These 12 old school skills are becoming obsolete. Does it matter? And I want your opinion on this because A, you have a child around this age, and B, you're in the school system. So these are things that we're no longer doing for the most part. Do we still need to teach children these skills? Okay? Reading and writing in cursive. Do kids nowadays still need to learn that skill?
I sometimes recommend to some kids that cursive would be easier for them, depending.
Easier than what?
Easier than printing.
Really?
Yes.
Why would that be?
Because printing requires a lot more motor planning in the sense of you're lifting up your pencil a lot more and you're having to reposition in. Whereas cursive, you don't have to do that. And a lot of older kids, it would be easier for them to do, but it's not necessary. And besides, you know what? The schools really don't teach it that much anymore.
Really?
A little bit. They get a little bit, and then it's done.
Schools pretty much aren't teaching cursive anymore.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of kids doing cursive.
I don't think that it's a necessary skill anymore.
No, not necessary, but yeah.
And for us, it was. Obviously, for our generation and younger, that's why I'm saying kids nowadays, 12 to 15 years old now. When did they start teaching cursive?
I believe it was, yes, it's around grade 3. Yeah.
You believe?
Well, I think it was something that happened, it was to do with the history of handwriting and during the war, and all the men were gone and women became the teachers of writing. And I don't know if you remember, but my grandmother and my mother had beautiful,
mine too,
immaculate cursive writing. But
mine's terrible. Mine's illegible.
Yeah. Mine's kind of a mix between the two.
Macman says, yes, they should. How the hell do you sign your name? That's not a bad point.
Mm-hmm. You know, I think we all develop a signature. You
could practice your signature in school. I practiced my signature when I was a kid for no apparent reason. Actually, no. I got it because Jean Beliveau, I got an autograph from Jean Beliveau, famous Montreal Canadian hockey player. My dad got it for me. And his signature was illegible. It was literally like you couldn't tell it was Jean Beliveau.
Oh, that's like the boy's dad. You don't have a clue.
Yeah.
Where is Shawn Berryman in it? Yeah.
The signature is useless because the kid doesn't say big J, no big B. Nothing.
It's not useless though. It's his signature.
Okay, let's dialing a rotary phone.
No.
Utterly
No.
useless. Utterly useless.
I don't think we need
There's
that.
absolutely no need to teach children that. Now, I know what you're going to say about this one. Sewing.
Well, yes, of course you should learn how
Why?
to sew. It is such a useful thing to be able to do. And no matter what. And if there was an apocalypse, I can sew clothing. So I can sew clothing.
Now,
but it's...
Should we teach people that level of sewing, clothing, or just buttons and small holes?
I think being able to
socks?
sew a button on, or sew a hem, or sew a hole in your socks, or sew a binding back on a pair of underwear or something, sure.
Why is that important?
Because I think it's just a really important skill.
I know, but why is it? I've never had to sew a button on in my life. I've never had to sew.
You never lost a button.
Yeah, I just buy new clothes.
Okay. I don't agree with that. See, Sherry wishes she knew how to sew. I've made so many clothes and cushions, and it's easy, although I got rid of all my sewing machine stuff.
I would agree that it's a useful skill.
Yes, for sewing, says Dave.
I don't know it's a necessary skill. You know the difference? You see what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
of course, yeah.
Number 4, navigate with a map or compass.
I think that would be cool.
Utterly useless for me.
Well,
They tried. I failed miserably.
right.
I can't read a map or a compass.
I think it's a useful thing to be able to do. But
Even
I
in
suppose
the-
it depends what you do in your
Yeah,
life. It
yeah.
depends. It's all different for everyone, isn't it?
I mean, I've been a city kid my entire life. If I go in the woods, it's the woods in a city where I can walk half a kilometer and I'll hit a highway.
Mm.
But if you're an outdoors person, like you and Shawn were when you went hiking
Oh,
on
yeah.
glaciers,
Shawn taught me how to use a compass, and it was kind of interesting. Didn't
Yeah.
you do orientation in school?
failed at it because I was terrible at it because I can't do. I'm not spatially aware that way.
But you would help if you had a compass and you were aware of magnetic north.
I tried. We had orienteering classes. I failed them. I got an F in orienteering in high school, grade 11.
Orienteering, yeah.
Because I couldn't follow the compass from point to point. Driving a standard shift vehicle.
Well, I used to say to Damon, you know what? You can't really drive. You don't know. You can't say you can drive unless you can drive a standard. I think it's cool to be able to know how to drive a standard.
Yeah. Going back, Dave D says, yes for navigation, at least tell cardinal points, know which way you're traveling. I've never had to know which way I'm traveling in my entire life. What difference does it make if I know which way I'm traveling, south, east, west, or north? It makes no difference. I don't care. Anyway, 1% of all new cars sold in America or North America last year were standards. 1%. It's a skill that's really being lost. If all new cars are being sold as automatics, then the argument is, why bother learning how to drive a standard? But that's only true in North America. If you go to Europe and want to rent a car, you got to pay extra to get an automatic car. Mm-hmm. So you got to learn. You should know how to drive a manual vehicle.
But it's so fun.
Yeah,
it's truly driving.
Yeah.
And you don't have to use your brakes as much, and it's just kind of fun. And so if you get into a race car, you're not going to be in an automatic race car.
Well, see, now the thing is, a lot of race cars have what's called paddle shifting. There is no clutch. They still shift, but they shift with their hands here.
I don't. They
don't have a stick shift
they don't
anymore.
have a shift.
There's no shift in any race car. I don't think there's even a clutch in Formula One cars. It's now all paddle shifting. So maybe at some point in time, clutch will be gone completely, and therefore no hand shifting. It'll be all shifting on the wheel.
It's fun.
Changing the oil in a car.
Yes.
Is that a skill you need? There are Jiffy Lubes everywhere. Why do I learn to change my own oil?
Because then you can do it yourself. You don't have to pay for it.
$35. What's the big deal?
$35 is $35.
Yeah.
That's eggs, milk, cheese.
It's not getting under your car. It's not getting filthy. It's not having to dispose of dirty used oil. Not having to buy the oil.
Well, I think anyway. I'm not a good person to ask because I think being as self-sufficient as possible is a good thing. So, but you're obviously not that way inclined.
I don't disagree with you, but that's the skill I don't think goes towards self-sufficiency.
Yes, it does.
Well, no, because you're not going to be in any situation where I need to change my oil right now. It's not like learning how to build a fire. Learning to build a fire means that you're in danger and you need heat. Not being able to change my oil, I don't need to do that.
Well, it depends. You're asking now about skills that if you were in danger and needed life skills
That's
to
what
help you.
self-sufficiency means, don't you?
It extends to more than that, though. So, but okay, no, it is not necessary, I guess.
Replace a flat tire. By the way, I have no idea how to change the oil in the car. I know that. I know there's a thing underneath it. You put a bucket underneath and pop this, but yeah, I don't. Replace a flat tire.
Yes.
Yes, I would agree with that because that's one of those emergency things that would happen right now.
Yeah.
You either have BCA or AAA in the States or learn how to change a
Yeah, no,
and there's a process to it, too.
Yeah,
If you don't do it properly, you can hurt yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Have you ever changed a flat tire by yourself?
I've had a flat tire and I've been shown how to do it and go through it. The only thing that was hard for me, unfortunately, as a woman, which I suppose not all women, it was hard for me to undo the bolts. Yeah, that was hard.
Dave D says, one essential life skill is swimming. I said, only if you go in the water. If you live in Kansas, you don't have to learn to swim. Find a book with the library's card catalog.
Oh, my goodness.
No,
I don't think that's
Typing
necessary
Google is all you
anymore.
need nowadays.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah.
The
Lug nuts. Thank you, Macman. I couldn't lug the nuts.
And the vast majority of libraries, even small libraries, our little town of 6,000, our library here is all computer-based. They don't have a card catalog anymore.
No, you just go in and, you look in the computer.
I know how to use the card catalog. It's only alphabetical. It's not rocket
it's
science.
not a difficult thing.
It's not, and it's also not one of those things that you couldn't pick up very quickly.
No.
If you went someplace that didn't have the computerized and the librarian said our card catalog is over there, you'd go, what? And you walk up the card catalog and you see A, B, C, D, E, F. You don't point up and you go, oh, okay, it's books.
But not necessary.
No, not necessary. Balance a checkbook.
Yes.
Although we were never taught that in school. How did you learn how to balance a checkbook?
I was taught some of that in school.
Were you?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, well, I never was. Anybody else? Anybody else in the audience? Were you ever taught how to? Because I wasn't, and I have no idea. I don't even know what it means. I believe in the old line of, what do you mean I'm out of money? I still have checks. You know? To me, my checkbook is balanced when the checks start bouncing back. You know, I don't know.
Well, you don't want to bounce your checks.
I know, but I don't know how to balance a checkbook. I keep if I have money, I think to myself, I got $100, I can write a check for $99. You know, I don't know how to balance checkbook.
Okay.
But those, along with other life skills, we've talked about this before, I think they should be taught in school. Checkbook, taxes, mortgages, all that kind of stuff that goes along with adulting. We should be taught that in school.
I know. I agree with you on that one.
Looking something up in a dictionary, thesaurus, or encyclopedia.
Yes. I think the process of doing it is very, very good for your brain.
As opposed to just going to Google?
Yes. You don't think that we might be kind of, like when you don't use muscles, they get all saggy and sloppy and floppy, that our brains are getting a bit like that too? I don't disagree with you. The problem is we don't have the opportunity to do that anymore. I mean, I'd be willing to bet Rory's school library does not have a set of Encyclopedia Britannicas in it. Does not have a thesaurus. It might not have a dictionary. So you can't practice a skill if the tools aren't there for you. No, that's true.
And then once you get old enough, you're not going to go out and buy a dictionary.
Well, I know I have a dictionary on my computer, but I don't know if I have a thesaurus.
Thesaurus.com.
Oh, okay.
Dictionary.com. That's what I use. I want to look up a word or find a synonym.
I have a dictionary on my dock that I'll because I hate misspelling words if I'm doing a report, so I'll always look it up. I still think it's a good idea to be able to do it manually. I'm just old-fashioned.
Thing that's not on this list, but spelling.
Yes, I think you need to know how to spell.
Because there's so many ways for people to have machines correct our spelling for us. But even then, and I know this for a fact, it's not perfect.
No.
So all kinds of times when the spelling fails or spells a word differently, or for us here in Canada, because we use the British spelling of words like honor and flavor and things like that, it'll take out the U's in those words and put the American spelling, which pisses me off.
I always change mine.
Change mine.
We used to have, my family, we had a huge, because we were huge Scrabble players too. We had a huge Webster's dictionary with all the,
big old red Merriam-Webster's dictionary.
Yeah. Don't get me started on spelling either, Dave. You learn how to spell.
I agree.
You know, like anyway, teachers are for children and literacy and all of that. It's extremely important.
Because if you can't spell, using a dictionary is very hard.
That's what I mean. The process of doing it helps you spell out a word.
Yep.
I feel so blessed that particularly Rory is so articulate. Like even his texts are incredibly articulate for a young boy.
Now, I don't mind text speak among friends and family. ILUV, letter U. Okay, that's okay. But I don't like when I see people doing that in professional correspondence or in a way they want to present themselves as being, well, for lack of a better term, intelligent.
Yeah.
Because I see that, I think you're a dummy. And if I see that in an email or a text to me,
no, you have to spell it out properly. Yes, yeah.
Susan said she wrote the Karuk dictionary. Dictionary.karuk.org. Karuk is spelled Karuk. If you want to check out Susan's dictionary.
That's kind of cool.
Remember phone numbers.
No, well, I have to say, because I can't do that anymore. I don't do that.
I remember my phone number. I remember your phone number, but I don't remember your phone number because we use it when we go to London Drugs as our coupon code.
I don't know your phone number.
Yeah, when I say my phone number, I still have to think about it.
Yeah.
But I barely know 911. I mean, there's no other phone number except for yours and mine that I could say out loud.
Oh, I know Damon's.
No, I don't know Damon's. For me, it's hey Siri, open.
Yeah, I don't know Rory's.
Yeah.
It just, you know, I don't.
That's why I've always said if I get arrested and thrown in jail and take away my phone, I'm screwed.
Oh, and if they say you want to make a phone call, but I need my phone because I don't know any of the numbers, the police would have to change the way they approach that.
Yeah, exactly. Put a stamp on the correct corner of an envelope.
Well, I should hope so.
Doesn't matter.
Why?
Because the post office isn't going to send your mail back if the stamp isn't in the right place.
You don't put a stamp on the wrong corner.
What corner is supposed to go in?
On the right-hand corner. I learned that in school.
There's two right-hand corners.
What are you talking
There's
about?
two right-hand corners.
On the upper right-hand corner.
Just checking.
I remember learning that in school. How you
really?
Yes, address an envelope, how you put the stamp on.
To me, it was just common sense.
No, they taught us in school when
every
we were little.
Every envelope I ever saw had the stamp in the upper right-hand corner. Return address, upper left, your address in the middle. Mm-hmm. I remember in Canada once, and sadly, this is how old I am, when they brought in postal codes. Americans have zip codes for Canadians because we didn't want to be like Americans, wouldn't use zip codes. So we do this postal code thing, which is also very British. But it's letters and number combination, which really pisses me off because zip codes are easy to remember. And it's letter, number, letter, number, letter, number. And the government had ads on TV telling us how to do it properly. It had to be in the lower third of the envelope. You put your address up here, but because they were machine reading the postal codes. Mm-hmm. And so the machines were only looking in that section for the they're much better now. They read the whole thing. But back then, whatever it was 30 years ago, they were doing it that way. I thought that was kind of cool.
My pet peeve is when people don't use things like your or their correctly,
God, yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just
that's the old don't get me started thing on that too. It makes me nuts as well. There's something else we wanted to talk about. Shoot, what was it?
Well, we're going to do. Well, you mentioned editing. I don't know if
that's
what you meant.
the starting point for topic segment later on.
Yes.
Darn it! What was it? Oh!
Does everybody want to see my cool new cover? Isn't it beautiful?
Look at the cover, Melissa.
Isn't it beautiful?
Hold it up again. Hold it up again. For her MacBook Air.
It's very bohemian.
It's very pretty. Got it on Amazon for about $20 Canadian. Shoot, I just had it here. I saw it. Weather. We already talked about the weather. The crappy weather we're getting. Here's some examples of the kind of weather we're getting here in Vancouver and Sunshine Coast right now. Just for us, like I said, this is really, really bad stuff. We're not used to this kind of weather here. When I was a kid in Nova Scotia, this was nothing. I remember it snowed one day in Halifax on my birthday in May. So we were kind of used to it. This is the dumbest guy in the city right now. Folks, take a look at that picture. Listen, I'll show it to you. This guy is a complete freaking moron. Riding his Lamborghini Diablo in the snow.
Oh.
He's going to crash that thing and cause himself $20,000, $30,000 worth of damage.
Oh.
That's just stupid. Stupid. Don't do that. If you have a Lamborghini Diablo, don't ride it in the snow.
Mm-hmm.
Dumbass. Folks, later on the show, we're going to be doing another segment on editing in iOS 13. Apple's made some changes to some of the things in editing. We want to talk about those too. But up next, we have a pre-recorded interview with our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. This is your Mac Life. For joining me here this Wednesday evening. On our phone, as usual, we have our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. Jim, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
You seem to be a little. You had to check to make sure there.
Well, it's always good to know if you're actually good or not.
That's right. And just check in once a week. So now it's the middle of January 2020. Have you stopped writing 2019 on your checks?
I can't remember the last time I wrote a check.
That's exactly what I was going to ask. Because I don't remember. It would have been, God, at least 5 years ago, writing rent checks, something like that. But nowadays, most of that stuff's taken electronically. So the joke of writing 2019 in your checks is, for most people, probably one that doesn't even make any sense.
Wow. I mean, and writing rent checks too. I mean, that doesn't happen when you live under a bridge. So.
There's no cost to that. There's really well, that's not bad then. No property taxes. That's not bad.
Yeah,
all things
I
considered.
do my best.
Exactly. Sometimes less. Let's talk about this Apple versus the U.S. government again story that has popped up now. This time with a very similar story to what happened in 2016. This time with a Pensacola alleged accused shooter. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think Apple's going to stick to their guns, and, I just can't see anything changing.
Do you think Apple should have more of a concern this time around, as President Trump has weighed in on this, unfortunately via Twitter, sort of intimating that because of all the good things he's done for Apple, Apple should reciprocate and help the Justice Department and the FBI to a greater degree? You think that might add a little more pressure to Tim Cook and Apple?
I don't think so. I don't. I mean, obviously, it's a tricky situation when the head of a country, comes out and says that you should do something. But, you know, Apple's made this stand for privacy. And I don't think that maybe nobody in the government really understands what they're asking of Apple. I mean, they all seem to think that they can just do, this back door and don't worry, everything's going to be okay.
Yep.
But that's not the way it works.
See, I think the Attorney General Barr and others, to a certain degree, know exactly what they're doing, as Celebrite and other companies have popped up saying that they could unlock the phones fairly easily if just given the chance, and obviously the money by the U.S. government. This feels like a PR campaign from the government trying to get Apple, and therefore by extension Google and others, to create a backdoor for law enforcement to get into any phone they wanted to with little to no effort. Barr knows this. Barr knows that the San Bernardino shooter's phone was unlocked by Celebrite. Barr knows that Celebrite can probably unlock this one, and yet he still took this public, accusing Apple of not doing enough, which Apple, rightly so, fought back against. Do you think that's what they're doing, is trying to use Apple and the threat of terrorism to force Apple to do what they want them to do, as opposed to using Celebrite?
Look, we knew that the first case of this, even though it was dropped, we knew it was going to prop up again sometime.
Yeah, sure.
And here it is. Would it be a lot easier for the government, any government around the world, to have access to a backdoor where they can just grab somebody's phone and, get into it and see everything that they want to see? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is Apple going to do that? I can't see it. Is it, it's a good opportunity for them to push Apple. There's no doubt about that, and they are. But, you're right. I mean, Celebrite may be able to unlock this phone, but Apple's doing whatever it can to make sure nobody will be able to unlock any of the phones.
I think what the government lawyers and law enforcement may not fully understand or believe is what Apple has always said, is that any backdoor would not be limited to just the good guys. And
well, that's what I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
I don't think that they fully understand what they're asking.
Yeah.
Because if there's a backdoor there, you can bet somebody's going to find it.
Well, what the FBI is saying, make a backdoor, trust us, we can keep it secret. We keep secret. This is what we do for a living. We keep secrets.
Yeah.
It wouldn't leak. But we've seen
none of those agencies have ever lost critical software.
Exactly. I mean, the NSA lost a buttload last year that has been used in various cyber attacks around the world. So there's no reason to believe that the FBI can be trusted. Even if you trusted the FBI, human beings are involved in this, and it could certainly leak or be stolen or be bribed or any number of ways. The thing I found very interesting reading the New York Times article this morning was the former Bruce Sewell, Apple's former general counsel, I'm quoting from the Times article, who helped lead the company's response in the San Bernardino case, said in an interview last year that Cook had staked his reputation on the stance. Had Apple's board not agreed with the position, Mr. Cook was prepared to resign, Mr. Sewell said. That, to me, is a huge sign that Apple's going to stick to its guns on this.
Well, I don't think Apple really has a choice but to stick to its guns. Yeah. I mean, is it possible that, and I'm actually asking, I don't know, is it possible that the government legislate Apple to, or all phone companies to make a backdoor?
They absolutely could. I mean, they absolutely could. In this political climate, it probably wouldn't get passed because it has to pass both the House and the Senate. But they could certainly make the attempt. But I think that the government knows that this would entail a long legal fight. It would go all the way to the Supreme Court, which they'd win in this present Supreme Court. But I don't think they want to have that fight. I don't think they want to even start down that road if they can somehow coerce or force Apple to do it without legislation.
I don't, there are probably a lot of companies that the government could coerce into doing things, but I don't think Apple's one of them.
Well, Apple has said that they have to obey the laws of the countries they're in. That's their excuse
Right.
for pulling things out of Russia and out of China. So if the U.S. government did pass a law that said they would have to do the backdoor, Apple would, by their own admission, have to abide by that law.
Well, and I agree wholeheartedly with that statement, and I don't see it as an excuse. I see it as, Apple is abiding by the laws of the countries that it does business in. Now, It has two choices. It could pull out from those countries. It could pull out from Russia and pull out from China.
Yep.
Or, they can abide by the laws of that country and what they set forth. So, you're in a situation, it's a very tough situation, I understand, but I mean, what are you supposed to do? They have to do it.
The New York Times had one little bit of a disturbing comment from Scott Galloway, a New York University marketing professor, who said, with regards to the fact that Cook has made privacy one of Apple's core values, that has set Apple apart from tech giants like Facebook and Google, who have faced scrutiny for vacuuming up people's data. Galloway says it's brilliant marketing. They're so concerned with your privacy that they're willing to wave the finger at the FBI. I don't agree with that statement. It may end up being good for Apple from a marketing point of view, but Tim Cook has said, and I believe him, that's not why they're doing this. They're not doing it because it makes them look good next to Facebook and Google and Amazon and other companies. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that, and I think that they've this is coming to the fore in situations like this, and it has in San Bernardino and different situations where Apple takes a stand on privacy. But if people remember, this is nothing new for Apple. They've been taking stand on privacy for a long time, whether it's just being able to browse the internet without advertisers following you around. They've been working on that for years and years. So, obviously this is on a completely different level of what we're talking about when it comes to privacy and security. But still, this isn't just, something that Apple decided, let's be hard on privacy. No, this is a long time that this has been entrenched in the company.
Cory Doctorow wrote an article on Slate that we linked to on Loop Insight that was very dismissive of this idea that there were ulterior motives to Apple doing this way, that it's to Apple's advantage that they lock down this kind of stuff, that even though it hurts customers, Apple doesn't care because it locks people into the prison, as Doctorow called it, of the Apple ecosystem. There is some truth to that from the point of view of once you start to a certain extent of your iPhone and your Mac and you get a certain amount of software and data and that kind of stuff, you're kind of trapped in it. But I don't know that.
But that's with everything, though.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem.
I mean, if you buy a BMW and then buy all kinds of accessories for your BMW, well, then you're kind of locked into your BMW at that point, aren't you? I mean, you're not necessarily locked in because could you go buy then a Mercedes and then buy all those accessories for the Mercedes? Sure. Is it easier just to buy another BMW? Sure. I mean, you can say that any company is trying to lock you in, and of course they're trying to lock you in.
Yeah.
But I think what Apple is doing here is it's a lot different. I don't agree with what he's saying there at all.
Yeah, it's hard to justify the statement that he complains that Apple takes too big of a cut of Apple Store sales, pays too little in taxes, pays too much deference to the Chinese government. But all of those things, if they're taken out of context, he may be right. But if you understand, the problem is the way Doctorow writes is that any criticism you have of it, he waves his hand, and you're just an Apple apologist, so it doesn't really matter to him what we say. But while developers do want more of a cut of what Apple collects through the Apple app stores, most developers say that for better or for worse, the App Store has helped them a great deal in promotion, in marketing, in not having to do a lot of that end of things. All air quotes, all they do is get a check each month from Apple. They don't got to worry about all those sorts of things. So while it might be a criticism, it's not a valid one, I don't think.
There are a lot of things to consider there. And if you talk to developers, they'll especially ones that have been around for a long time, people say, oh, in the shareware days, we didn't have to worry about some of that. But yeah, you did. I see you still needed to be able to accept payments.
Yes.
So there was still that cost. You needed to, do different things in app where you could buy your product. You need to be able to process all of that kind of stuff. Now that's all taken care of. Mm-hmm. And is that worth 30%? Well, I guess that's up to the developer. If you don't want to develop for Apple stuff, then don't,
He says Apple's alpha and omega is control. And again, taken from the most negative point of view, he's saying that control is a bad thing. But for a lot of us, the Apple's control over its ecosystem, its hardware, its software, is why we like the company. That I don't got to futz around with. We just installed a new printer over Christmas. I remember the bad old days of trying to install print drivers under Windows. I know it's better now, but you had to just move heaven and earth, try to get your printer to talk to your operating system. That was never an issue and is never an issue for the most part when it comes to the Mac. Everything works together seamlessly. So his criticisms in its most extreme way are valid, but I think it's through a very narrow lens.
Yeah, and I think you pointed it out rightly that if you take each one of those criticisms without actually thinking about it, then sure, yeah, you could say, oh, yeah, that bad old Apple.
Yep.
But if you look at some of the arguments for the criticisms, like the privacy or like, the App Store, then, you can easily see that there are ways that things were done before that are better now.
Yeah.
And it's not like Apple is forcing these developers to develop software for them.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
They don't go knocking on your door and say, hey, you will now start making Apple software. No, So, the rules when you enter the game. Apple's not changing the rules. They're trying to help. And, should developers get 100% of the money? Well, that's another thing.
Yeah.
I think Apple's providing a safe infrastructure where people actually feel safe in downloading products. And to me, that's very important. I have no hesitation in downloading something from the App Store, whether it's a Mac or iOS App Store for iPad or iPhone, nothing. And that is just, I don't know what price you put on that.
That's right. The irony for me, though, is you saying that is the only things I don't download without even thinking about it are from Apple. Apple's OS updates for the iPhone, the iPad, and the Macintosh. I don't download any of those anymore the first day. But now I go to the App Store and I see I've got an update for this app or that app. I happily click update all and not worry about it, not think about it at all. So it's kind of funny that my only concerns now are directly from Apple.
Well, and you're talking about something that runs the whole device, and
exactly.
I said a little while ago that iOS 13. That's what we're on now, right? 13. Yep. Geez, yeah. Kind of lost my. See what happens when I don't drink beer when I talk to you, and I'm sitting there having a cup of coffee, and I can't remember.
Just can't think of it.
iOS 13 was probably for me one of the buggiest releases that has come out, And, you know, it's not, I mean, it's not crashing and going all weird or
Yep.
anything, but it's just little tiny things that, you know, are consistent throughout that you just, well, this is not right.
Yep.
You know, so yeah.
My friend Jason Snell over at Macworld, 6colors.com, wrote, "It's time for new hardware at the center of Apple's home strategy." We all remember Steve Jobs standing up at a Macworld Expo and talking about making the Macintosh the hub of your home. That sort of fell to the wayside, at least from the point of view of what we thought that was going to be. Apple's no longer making routers. They're no longer making devices like that. Their HomeKit strategy seems to be cotton molasses right now. I think Jason makes an interesting point, whether it's valid or not. I think it's interesting to talk about. Do you think Apple needs to do more when it comes to home hardware, routers, Apple TV, HomePod, those kinds of things?
You know, I think it would be wonderful if Apple could pull all these things into one, you know, in the very smart Apple way of doing things.
Yep.
You know, have your Apple TV and all of that just kind of in the air where you can connect to it. And, you know, that would be great because the home, I mean, you're right. Everything is just kind of stuck.
Yeah.
And, you know, if I'm looking at a grade for what they do with HomeKit, I mean, you know, what are you looking at? Like 3, 4?
Out of 10, yeah, maybe. I think HomeKit is very good software, but it's not being used. They're not pushing it in the same sort of manner that Amazon and Google are pushing theirs. So these people have got these devices in their homes, which are very convenient, but which may not be serving them as the user. Amazon wants you to buy stuff. Google wants you to be served ads. So I don't have those devices in the HomeKit because of those reasons. We'd love to have that kind of stuff integrated into our home systems, whether it's our Macs and our iPads or Apple TV.
Right.
Jason made the point that I've been making for years. Wouldn't it be great to be able to have your HomePod, your Apple TV, and a sound bar, maybe even a router, all in one device?
Well, that's what I was saying, you know, combine all of this stuff into one thing so that, you know, you're not out there buying 5 different devices from Apple. You buy one device and that's all you need. It will control your home. It has Siri. It's listening. It can unlock the doors. It can turn on your light bulbs if you're too lazy to get up. It can, you know, play your Apple TV stuff. It can connect to all your devices and play media off of those. You know, just everything in the easy Apple way that we're used to having difficult problems solved. That's what I would like to see. And, you know, I mean, we're nowhere near that yet.
Not even when it comes to Amazon and Google. Exactly. I think that's why it was interesting late last year when Apple announced they were joining Amazon and Google and other companies in trying to find that standard. HomeKit tried to be it. Amazon and Google didn't join in. So maybe this stuff gets easier with a standard, but I don't think so. I don't, because of user interfaces, if nothing else. Apple's going to do their UI their way, Google will do it their way, Amazon will do it their way. I think many of us, and this is not just a fanboy speaking, this is someone who has seen how Apple integrates things in the past and how it makes it so easy for the average user, not techies, not nerds, to install and set up and do these things. Someone commented on the Loop in the story that I wrote. He said, I have lots of, my Apple TV enables all that home automation already. Yeah, but he's a nerd. He knows how to set all that stuff up. He knows how to set rules.
Exactly.
And he knows how to set timers. He knows all that stuff. So it's easy for you, but for your mom or my wife or even me, because I'm not that techie or nerdy, it would be a lot more difficult.
Well, and that's, see, and that's what the people have to remember with a lot of this stuff. I mean, you know, the Apple script was one of the coolest things that Apple ever did, and Saul and you know, all the stuff that he did at Apple for 20 or 30 years, amazing stuff. But the average person would have difficulties with Apple script. You know, if you were a nerd and you get into that, oh my God, you can control anything.
That's right, exactly.
So, you know, it is the same way. What Apple has to look at, and they know this, it has to be about mass adoption.
Yeah.
So is the iPhone so easy that anybody can point with their finger and tap on something? Yes. And that's what makes it so great. That's what makes all of these Apple products so great, is that mass adoption is very easy. When you start to have to hack into something in order to get it to do stuff, then you start to run into problems.
The folks at Ecobee or Ecobee, I'm not sure which one it is, asked if I wanted to try out one of their smart thermostats. They saw something I posted on Twitter, and I said, yeah, it's great. And I thought the idea would be cool. Let's see how easy these things are to install. I'll get my wife to do it. She's very smart. She's not a techie or nerd, so let's see if we can't figure out how her to do it. So I look on the Ecobee website to see how their air quotes easy installation is. Oh dear sweet baby Jesus, there is no way I'm letting my wife do that. She'll electrocute herself. We're gonna have to call in a freaking electrician to install the thermostat, you know. So what they see as being easy to use or easy to install, average human beings look at this and go, nah, I ain't buying that damn thing.
Well, I hope you're going to give it a try, because I've heard good things about that.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely going to try it. But what we're going to do is we have a friend who's an electrician. He'll be standing by saying, "Don't touch that wire." You know, we'll do it ourselves and document it, but we'll definitely have someone behind.
Well, no, you have to. You shouldn't have. You should have them in a phone call. But I mean, part of what we're looking for is like the injury.
Yes,
so,
that's right.
You know, we
mean this
do,
wire?
we do want you to stick that screwdriver in there and just wiggle it around.
This is.
And I think you should like Periscope it or something.
Exactly, live on Facebook. Every year we get into this fight, and I love it. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has announced their inductees this year. The inductees this year, interesting group. Whitney Houston, should she be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I'm iffy on that. I understand, you know, why people love Whitney, but yeah.
I think yes, she should. The Notorious B.I.G.
I see why he should, and you know, all the things that he brought. So but it just wasn't my thing. It never was. So
for me, it was, and it's his influence on rap and hip hop going forward, which I think he really deserved. Maybe not for his own stuff, but his own stuff was very good, but definitely for his influence even after death. I think Notorious B.I.G. deserves being there. T-Rex.
I mean, what, they had a couple of good songs, right?
I don't know who they are. I've never heard of them.
Oh yeah, you have.
I may have heard their music, but I don't know the band.
Yeah, you would know the song. Just pull it up and you'll know it.
Yeah, but if you're saying the song, one song should not get you the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
No, I get it, but it's like an instant classic, you know. So, I mean, to me, you need to do more than that to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I could punt on that.
Yeah,
to be sure.
Yeah, especially like I said, it's a band who's I can't think of a single song that they from the Wikipedia says from 1970 to 73, T-Rex encountered a popularity in the UK comparable to that of the Beatles, with a run of 11 singles in the UK top 10. So they had a bunch of popular songs, but like I said, I don't know a single one of them.
I think that they had a couple.
I think Get It On, Bang a Gong, was that I think it was T-Rex.
Yeah.
I remember that one. That was a cool song.
Yeah, that's the one main one.
9 Inch Nails.
Never a big fan, but, you know, again, they kind of opened up, you know, a whole genre type. So I could take it or leave it, to be honest. Again.
I'm not as huge a fan as our friend Bill in Portland, but I again recognize their influence and liked a lot of their music. So I can definitely see why they would make it.
I can see the influence, but I never really get into them.
The Doobie Brothers.
Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely.
Fluff. Utter fluff.
Oh my God, no.
70s cotton candy.
They are, no, absolutely not. You do not know what you're talking about.
Wouldn't be the first time.
It wouldn't be the first time.
What influence did the Doobie Brothers have?
Oh my God, on rock and what they did?
Yeah.
I mean, Skunk Baxter was one of the best guitar players ever.
All right, put Skunk in then.
He was in Steely Dan and then went to the Doobie Brothers. And the hits that the Doobie Brothers had and the influence on other bands around them in that time, incredible. Absolutely. They should have been in before now.
Really?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
See, I only know them from the Michael McDonald years, and that to me was just it was ear candy. There was nothing.
If Whitney Houston makes it in the Doobie Brothers don't, I'm burning the place to the ground.
Depeche Mode.
They're another influence. Like, again, not my thing, but I get it. I get why people want that, kind of punky type thing going in there, but I could take it or leave it.
Yeah, I would definitely say no to Depeche Mode as well too, because their music was interesting, but it was also seemed like a lot of other stuff during that synthesizer electronic age that I don't think they were that influential again in my mind.
A flock of seagulls.
Exactly, that's right.
I mean, you had all of that stuff going on, but from what I know, from others that really liked it, Depeche Mode was more of an influencer than a lot of the other bands.
Yeah, possibly. Dave Matthews Band didn't make it, even though they won the fan vote. Do you think, first of all, Dave Matthews Band should be in? And does the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame have a problem by ignoring the fan vote?
Well, I don't know how you could ignore Dave Matthews anyway.
Seriously?
Yeah, I mean...
Oh my God, there's more fluff. There's nothing that, to me... that says they're good music. It seemed like a garage bar band that somehow made it big.
And have stayed big and have had the biggest tours of the year, even recently. So Dave Matthews is a huge influence.
Really?
Yeah. And the band, maybe it's because he's still out there touring that they don't want to put him in. Yeah. I don't know, but I would say Dave Matthews should be in there.
See, reading their Wikipedia entry makes me hate the band. A jam band, Dave Matthews Band is renowned for its live performances. The band is known for playing songs differently each time they're performed. No, don't do that. Yeah. That would just piss me off.
I'll be honest with you. I really don't listen to Dave Matthews that often, but I understand the attraction to that.
So the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has said no to Dave Matthews Band, except they have a fan vote, and the fans voted that Dave Matthews Band should be in, and yet the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame still said no. I think that's wrong.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame does this, but we shake our head every year at some of the things.
True, but that one, the band won the Hall's fan vote by a large margin, and then it goes on to the members of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame voting committee to see whether they move on forward, and that committee said no. But if your fans, the people you want to buy the music and come to your museum and see the stuff, if they demand that, then you got to do it. They won 1 million votes in total.
But I mean, these votes, especially the online votes, can be fixed now.
True.
So, what if there's some, weird band that doesn't deserve to be
Yep.
in there. I don't think it should be an automatic thing, but you have to wonder why somebody with Dave Matthews' reputation doesn't get in there.
But if you've got a problem with the fan vote, then there are others who shouldn't have made it. Rush, Kiss, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Chicago, Journey, Bon Jovi, Def Leppard, all were previous fan vote winners.
Yeah, but again, I think all of those should have been in there too.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. Looking at the list: Rush, Kiss, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Double Trouble, Chicago, Journey. Yeah, I would agree with all of those bands. Def Leppard would be the weakest one for me, but they were a great band.
Don't forget that Def Leppard had a massive influence when MTV first came out. Def Leppard was one of the first bands with a video, and they had this melodic type of rock that really sparked another generation of songwriters.
Yep. And really gave a big boost to one-armed drummers.
Well, there's that too.
Folks, I've been talking to Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. His podcast is up on the iTunes on the iTunes podcast list. It's the Dalrymple Report. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Shawn.
Talk to you next week, buddy. See you.
Bye.
Welcome back, folks. Thank you guys very much for joining us here this Wednesday evening. I'm Shawn King, joined by my lovely wife, Melissa. I remembered what it was that I forgot to mention off the top of the show. One of the things I like to do, by the way, thanks to everyone who shopped on Amazon via yourmaclifeshow.com website. We appreciate that. But this time of year, every year, I look at what people bought for Christmas, because I'm assuming that month of December, those are probably Christmas presents. Mm-hmm. It's always kind of fun to see what people bought. Someone bought Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order for the Xbox One. Somebody bought an iMac from Amazon. Thank you very much. That was several $1,000s. Oh. Canon battery pack. Someone bought duct tape. Who buys duct tape on Amazon?
Okay.
That kind of cracked me up. I was like, duct tape? Why would you buy duct tape on Amazon.com? Somebody obviously was going out in the snow because they bought O0 winter gloves, Brubaker Heat My Feet thermal socks, and thermal vest. So somebody went and bought all that stuff on Amazon.com because they were going out in the cold. Mm. Ginger People Original Ginger Chews. I don't even know what that is. Someone bought, obviously, a Christmas present for a significant other. The women winter hats, knit winter hat, a warm wool knit snow skull cap, and a soft, luxurious, classic cashmere winter scarf.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
It does. Some lucky lady got all that stuff. Somebody bought finger guns at noon. The funniest one is Hanes Ultimate Men's Fresh IQ Comfort Briefs.
Oh, you got Hanes briefs.
I bought on Hanes on, so I thought it was funny that, and it wasn't me, it was somebody else. People of the Mist, a novel of North America's forgotten past. That sounds interesting. Someone bought toner for their Brother printer. Somebody bought coconut water. Don't buy coconut water. Coconut water tastes like water someone else has already drunk. I don't understand coconut water. Do you like coconut water?
I drink it out of a fresh coconut. I don't buy it
Out of fresh, that's coconut milk.
No, yes, yeah.
I think it's different.
I use coconut milk to make curries. You can make delicious curry, but I don't just drink the water. No.
Somebody bought my coffee maker, the Bioletta Mocha Express coffee maker, that big one, the Italian one. I love the thing. They bought the big 12-cup one too. A Canon battery pack. Someone bought a Canon PowerShot G5, an iPad Pro, a Nikon waterproof underwater digital camera, bunch of memory cards for stuff. It's kind of interesting. A bicycle tube. Somebody bought a bicycle tube. Someone bought a travel lightning cable called the Fuse Chicken. There's a Harperton nail clipper set.
Oh, okay. Well, you do need a nail clipper set.
True, that's the kind of thing you get at the drugstore. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd go and buy my clipper. Yeah, okay. But some people I order everything from Amazon.
I guess. Nesting Star cutters, cookie cutters. Lando Lake cocoa.
Oh.
I didn't know Lando Lake made cocoa. The Martian Quadrilogy box set. A Mars Space Opera series. That sounds interesting.
That sounds different.
So you bought Lysol?
Strange.
I know, it's just kind of funny what some people buy. I'm not making fun of the stuff you bought. It's just interesting that people buy Deep Steel bubble bath.
Okay.
Life is Strange #1, 2, and 3. 9.7 inch iPad and a case for it. Good for you.
Nice.
Instant Read meat thermometer. Good for you. Made Good granola mini club pack. And 10 bags of chocolate chip cookies.
Oh. Interesting.
That's cool. So, again, thank you guys very much for buying stuff on Amazon through Your Mac Life. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
On tonight's starting point photography segment, hang on. Uh-oh. I just noticed that the stream was buffering. Yeah, MacMan says stream buffering. Oh, sorry, let me see if I can't really quickly diagnose this, kids. Stream health says not good.
Oh.
Why is the stream health all of a sudden not good? And we're really behind, too.
Oh.
Anyone else having problems with the buffering as well? One thing you can do is drop your YouTube video stream quality. It's we're broadcasting in 1080p, but if you can drop it down to 24p or 360p, that might help on your end. So give that a try. But yeah, I've got it's saying stream health isn't good.
Oh.
Okay, let's power on through. In our starting point photography segment on tonight's show, Apple made some changes to editing in iOS 13 on your iPhone and on your iPad. And one thing I always tell people is you've got to edit your photos. You got to learn how to edit your photos. Editing is, in my opinion, half the effort of making a good photo. There's all kinds of photos. A perfect example of one was I took this picture of Melissa, and I really liked the picture, but it never came out the way I wanted it to, the original photo. And I'll show you the original. I'm going to cover up Melissa's face here real quick. Sorry, Melissa.
Cover up my face with my face.
I'm going to cover your face with your face. So make Melissa face. Oh, hang on. So there's the original picture I took of Melissa. We were down at a local beach here called Bonnie Brook Beach. I love the hat. I love the way her beautiful red hair curled around her face. The fake, by the way, fake fur on her jacket. I remember taking this picture and thinking, this is going to be really nice because we had the background was a stormy kind of day. I thought it was a really good picture. I took the picture, and when I looked at it, I went, oh, shit, it's too dark. There's just not enough light on her face. So I kind of put the picture aside, and interestingly enough, even though I tell people, I warn beginners, you'll never go back to a photo. If you put a photo away for a week or more, thinking, oh, I'll edit it some other time, you probably won't. But in this case, I did. I was going through a bunch of old photos and saw this one. I thought, oh, I've got some new software I wanted to play around with. I want to see if it works out better. So I took the photo and started messing around with it in software. And here's the after version of that same photo. The after version is so nice. I love the little gray-green water in the background. The software made her hair come out, the details better. The details, a little bit of detail in the sky and behind the hat. Her face, all of it came out so much better. And again, there's the before shot, and there's the after shot.
It's a very good example
so much better.
What editing can do.
This is a shot that if you didn't know how to edit, you'd probably throw it away. You'd probably go,
I go, no, I don't like that. Yes.
And delete it. But with a little bit of editing, and this was not, I tell people all the time, I don't, unless I'm getting paid to do it, I don't spend a lot of time editing. Maybe 30 seconds, maybe max 2 minutes. If I have to spend more time than that, the picture isn't worth it. It's just not, like I said, unless I'm getting paid. So this was a very, very, very quick edit in Luminar 4 for this particular example. But you can also do edits on your iPhone. And let me just see if I can't pull up the iPhone here and show you guys. Okay, let me quit out of this. Hang on, Melissa. I moved Melissa. I didn't mean to do that. Okay, so I'm going to do is use my iPhone the way nature intended. Oh, by the way, we got a message from Monty. You said he wasn't feeling well, so he couldn't make it into tonight's show, which is why Monty isn't in our chat room. I'm going to find a photo here that I really liked, and just checking to make sure those aren't going up on the intraweb.
I hope not.
But Melissa can see them, but
Okay.
and she recognizes some of them.
No, my whole surge went through. Never mind. I was like, is he showing everybody those photographs?
So here is let me do edit. No, okay, so let's use this one as
not the one of you and I. It's a nice one.
Okay, all right.
It's much more interesting.
Okay, sorry. This one.
Yeah, that one.
But this one's already been edited. I don't know if I can get the I can't get the
previous.
I can't get the previous one of
see.
this. So here we go. So here is the original no, not that's the one. No, I want it. Let's go back to this and then that. So there's the original shot of Melissa. And in my mind, if you don't mind me saying, I love the composition. That's the most important thing, is you got to nail the composition in a way. In a way that you like the shot. Because if the composition isn't good, rarely will any amount of editing make any difference at all. So you got to nail your composition. So once again, same place. Actually, ironically enough, same place, Bonneville Beach, and we were down there just hanging out. So in the iPhone, no matter what version of the iPhone you have, you tap on the picture, and you'll see at the bottom it says Edit. All you do is tap on that Edit button, and this stuff pops up. And let me get all this stuff on the screen for you. Oh, no, don't do that. Just move up. There we go.
Okay, so you already did put some editing on that one.
No, I did not.
Oh, why does it have...
Oh, it says revert. You're right. You are correct.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, come on, Apple. So I'll click on the revert button and make it go back to...
Oh.
Revert. Oh, I'm clicking on the screen.
I was going to say, is that going to work if you...
Revert to original. I'll click here. I'm sorry.
That's funny.
It's funny. It's a funny guy. So there is the original portrait of Melissa. I can't figure out why I can't get this on screen properly. Hang on. Let's just shrink this down a little bit so I can get everything on screen. That should work. Okay, so you guys should be able to see this one on screen now. So there's the original photo. Again, I like the composition. I love the log on the left-hand side. I love the little bit of tree over her left shoulder, upper right-hand side of the photo. I noticed the side of her face is a bit dark, so I wanted to fix that. So the first thing I always do is do the crop, because as we all know, my eyes are on crooked.
Mm-hmm.
And did you see what happened there? Just by doing that simple little edit crop, watch what happens. It moved it in, and I like their choice for composition a little bit better. If you didn't, you could move the photo around and do whatever it is that you wanted to do. But that was the auto crop. So you see the rule thirds. Does it show up?
I don't do an auto crop. How did you do the auto crop?
The auto crop is at the bottom of the screen on the lower right-hand side.
Oh, because I always do that, but I didn't know. Or maybe I'm just not registering that it's doing it.
What it is your eyes aren't on crooked. Remember, I've always said that my eyes are on crooked. So when I took the shot, I bet I was a little bit tilted one way or the other. Oh, so it did that for you. Okay. So it fixed it automatically for me. So the next thing I do is because this is in portrait mode, the little square that you see down there. If I tap on it, what happened? Yes, no. The little square will allow you to change portrait mode features. And so you can switch between the different lighting modes of the shot. And I don't really like these. I don't like stage light. I don't like stage light mono.
No.
I don't. Maybe it's the kind of shots I take. They don't work this way. I don't like them very much. But it can give you a little bit of an idea.
One of them. See, that took the shadow away a little bit.
This one I like because it removed. You'll see as I move back and forth, it brightened up her face a little bit. But you lose some color.
Yeah, you do.
So I'm going to go with the natural light. I'll tap on that second button from the left. And then I'm going to just tap on auto and see what auto does. You saw auto just brighten it up.
Where did you tap?
Oh, auto, the little magic wand.
Oh, the little match that looks like a match. I always think
it's actually supposed to be a magic wand.
Oh, okay.
But match, because that's little stars around it. So that's supposed to be a magic wand. So you tap on that one, and then you can, as always with this kind of software, just take your finger and scroll back and forth on the bottom lines. And you don't need to know what it's doing. All you do is look at the photo and think, I like this or I don't like this. I like it, I don't like it. So just scroll back and forth until you find an overall image that you like. It doesn't matter about anything else but just what this thing is doing. So I'm looking at this and thinking, okay, this is not bad. Then you just go back across the screen. And this is where Melissa said, I said to Melissa, why don't you do the rest? She said, I don't want
I do like editing.
But you said you didn't know what those buttons did.
Well, I did remember you saying to me once, just take it to the extreme, go all the way down, all the way back up, and start to look. But so yes, you're right. I don't often go through these.
So the thing is, it's time consuming. For the first 8,000 times you do this, it's time consuming. You're like, I don't have the time to futz around with this. But the more you do it, the more comfortable you get doing it, the better you get doing it, and the more likely you are to know exactly what you want to do. So for now, we'll just go through the list. So the first one is exposure. What does exposure mean? I don't know. Who cares? Doesn't matter what the word means. But it's just the same dynamic as before. If you look at the bottom of the screen, you see it has a little white dot and a line going up. And that tells you where the base is. So you can always come back to the base. Even if you screw up and go too far one way or the other, you can see that little white dot.
Yeah, that's the point of reference.
Is the point of reference.
Like the middle, right?
The middle, exactly. And if you look at the circle in the center, it says 0. When you move it one way or the other, it goes to variations of 100 to minus 100. So it's at 0. That's the way the camera saw it. So now you just look at the picture and you just scroll and see what you like. You see, now one of the things that's important is don't get too focused on the face or the subject in the center, because sometimes you'll forget about the background, and you might find just the right lighting on the face, but then the background will be all screwed up. So keep looking forward and background. Look below the person's face, look to the sides, make sure that whatever changes you're making are working for the entire image and not just one spot on the image. So for this one, I'm going to go to there. See, that's 13. That's not a huge difference. You can always tap on the screen to see the before and after. So I tap, and it shows me the original.
That's nice.
Just for a second, it shows you the original. So I can see I very subtly increased the brightness of the shot.
Yes.
So now I go to the next one, brilliance. I'm going to make her smarter. So again, brilliance, you just slide back and forth. And obviously this direction, not good. Although your hair looks great. Your hair looks beautiful and red. Obviously I wouldn't do this because the rest of the shot blows it out. And then going too far the other way. So I'm going to just find a spot I like a little bit darker because it brings your hair out. So that's at -17. You tap the next one, highlights. Highlights, you go all the way one way, all the way other, and now you bring it back and just find that spot.
It's funny how that spot seems to come to you. When I was editing that one of you this morning, it's just that spot where you go, oop,
yep,
that's
exactly.
where I like it.
It sort of pops into
just
place.
Pop into place.
It's like it's a puzzle picture sliding around a board, and it slides into place. It really feels that way. Like, dink, okay, that's exactly the way I want it.
Yeah.
Next up is shadows, and shadows is obvious. Shadow is the dark spots on your shots. So look at Melissa's glasses. That's the darkest spot, that and behind her hair. Watch what happens with, it makes her eyes come out a little bit more, or darkens them a little bit more. And that's your choice of how you want to do the shot. Now for me, I don't necessarily like all the shadows on the left-hand side of your face. So I'm going to overexpose a little bit to bring up some of that. I'm all the way at 100. I'll tap the before and after. See the difference?
Oh, yes. That's quite a bit.
Next one is contrast, and contrast is that. In contrast, I generally don't mess with contrast very much because I find I can't do a whole lot to get the kind of contrast I want. So I'm going to leave that one at 0. So now, brightness is the overall brightness of the shot.
A lot of them do seem similar.
Yes, they do. Exposure and brightness seem similar. Black point, I never mess with black point. I never, ever bother. This is one of the ones I just skip over completely. And then saturation, you can see what's, if you wanted to shot it black and white, you would take, saturation is the depth of the color. And because she's a redhead, I'm going to give her a little bit of saturation. And then vibrance is the brightness of the color. So you can see that. See the blue of your jacket got really, really bright. So I want a little more brightness in the shot. So I'm going to go a little overboard on brightness. Warmth is blue or orange.
Oh, orange.
So it's basically a cold feel to the shot or a warm feel to the shot. So a sunset shot or not. So you can just see that there's blue and there's orange. So if you want a more of a sunrise, sunset kind of golden hour glow, you go that way. If it's more of a cold, icy kind of glow you want, you can go that way. This one is already, because of your face and the other colors, you've already got a lot of golden to it, so I'm not going to bother with that one. Next up is tint. I never touch tint. Sharpness, same thing. Sharpness is very subtle. You watch the sharpness on your hair. See the highlights in your hair on the right side of the picture? Look at the difference.
Yeah.
Now that may or may not be a good thing. You may want that pop. I don't particularly.
No, I don't.
That's what sharpness does. It makes fine detail pop. Like that. It'll give you a little
Well,
bit
this morning, that one, you said when you look at that one and look at there were like dots or something that came out in the quilt that was noise, and I
if you do too much sharpness,
it was too much.
It brings up digital noise.
Yeah.
So you have to be very. That's why I say look to the background, look to
the foreground too. Yeah, because you do tend to focus on the face.
That's right. Exactly. Definition, same thing with definition. It gives a little more detail, and it can be a little harsh.
A bit much, yeah.
It's a bit much. So definition I rarely do. With things that have texture to them, like a building or leaves or water crashing, I would use definition, maybe a lot of sharpness because it really brings out the details. But for people, you don't want them to be too harsh. So I wouldn't do much definition. And this is where noise reduction, if you do add too much sharpness, you can use noise reduction to sort of soften that. But the problem is noise reduction tends to soften everything, and it might do it a little too much. But it doesn't look too bad.
Doesn't seem to be changing it very much.
And then finally, vignette. Never, ever do a white vignette. They're useless. Vignettes are for putting a little bit of white or dark in the four corners of your photo. And a proper vignette is very subtle, and it draws your eye towards the subject, the bright part of the subject. So if you see this, I can go here, and you see that I'm overdoing it now for you guys. You can see how dark it is in the corners, but you see how that draws your eye towards the center. But I'm going to put a vignette on, but a very
little
subtle darkening of the
yeah.
vignette. That's it. You hit done.
They do have a lot of options, don't they?
So the thing to remember is this stuff can be done very quickly once you get used to what you're doing. And that's the key. You've got to, I've said it a million times. You got to practice how this stuff, and know how this stuff will affect your photography. Come on, stop it. There you go. You don't have to know what the words mean. You don't have to know what exposure does. You don't have to know what white point is or any of the other fancy words they use, especially when it comes to apps like these that are slider based. And all you got to do is just slide your finger one way or the other and watch your image. Now, the biggest caveat I give people is because you're working on a small screen, most of the edits you do, dial them back just a couple of notches. Because the screen is so small on the iPhone, we tend to overdo things. And when someone looks at it at a bigger screen, or looks at it on a computer screen or even a laptop screen, the picture can look really, really bad and blown out. So I always do my edits and then just drop it back just a touch, just a couple of notches back. For people who look, because most of my images, I'm assuming people are looking at them on a bigger screen.
But then when you put them on Instagram, they look nice, and then you put them on Facebook, and they look gross.
Do not, unless you absolutely have to, avoid using that button on Instagram that says
share with Facebook too.
Do your Facebook one separately. What I tend to do is I'll do my Instagram post, then I'll copy the text of my Instagram post, hashtags and all of it, post it to Instagram, then go to Facebook and upload the photo to Facebook. Because Facebook, the transfer from Instagram to Facebook just destroys photos.
It's funny, the one I did this morning came out quite nice of you on Facebook. But
sometimes they do.
I don't know why.
Yeah, I find most of the time it does a terrible, terrible job of really ruining your photos.
It can do. But this one came out quite nice on Facebook.
Good to know. What else is going on this week? Did you guys hear that? Yes, it's coming through. Okay, my bad. I got to turn that feature off. That's it for tonight's show. I want to say thanks to everyone for being tuned in. As always, appreciate you guys being listeners of the show. Thanks very much, as always, to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com for being here each and every week, and hopefully everything works out tomorrow. Thanks to you guys for being listeners, and thanks, as always, to my beautiful wife for being my co-host.
You're welcome.
Folks, that's it for tonight's show. As always, I've been Shawn King.
I'm Melissa King.
And you're listening to Your Mac Life.
You didn't say
I didn't say it.
No.
That's my fault.
Yes.
I screwed it up. Here I'm sitting waiting for you to say it. And
I'm waiting. And
Take two. We'll fix it in post. Folks, as always, I've been Shawn King.
I'm Melissa King.
You've been listening to Your Mac Life. See ya.
Bye.